My trip to the land of centaurs. I like unicorns. I like unicorns, pegasi, alicorns, and ordinary down-to-earth ponies. So if you have a television show featuring those things, chances are I'm going to watch it and watch it hard. And apparently over 9,000 guys thought the same thing and attended a convention to show their adoration of Hasbro's hit series, My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic. There's a name for these unexpected members of the pony fandom: bronies. Naturally, my gender has a different alias, the Pegasisters, though if you ask me, there's not as much of a ring to it. I love this show, so much that not only do I decorate my room with all sorts of corporate and fan-made memorabilia and constantly adorn clothing and accessories of the line, my classmates can all attest to the fact that I always seem to have a particular unicorn-printed lunchbox on my person, but I partake in lengthy philosophical debates on the moral reasoning of our main protagonists as well as their hopes, motivations, and aspirations, and the potential metaphors the writers may be conveying. Who knew a show featuring Technicolor ponies could be so invigorating? Obviously, with my level of fanaticism, I love to share my thoughts with fellow fans, which can be difficult when you live where I do. A desert. Correction. The high desert of Southern California. Now, doesn't that sound more prestigious? Well, if you've been there, you know it's not. Luckily, there's a nifty little gizmo known as the internet that can direct you to people with common interests from anywhere. And boy, did I hit the jackpot. Wasn't long until I met like-minded individuals who I quickly called friends, became familiar with a group of bros known as the Brony Analysts, who often created content that either resonated with my preconceptions or caused me to question everything I thought I knew. With all the exposure, contact through just a screen soon was not enough to sate me. No matter how in-depth the conversation was, it still was just me, sitting at a computer, giddy perhaps, but still physically alone. I didn't want to just talk, I wanted to interact. I wanted to know my friends were real. I wanted to know the analysts were real. I wanted to know this fandom was real. So fortunate was I came across the funds to attend the largest gathering of bronies in North America, BronyCon. Now, BronyCon isn't for the faint of heart or casual fan. No. Months and months of planning was involved in my first outing, and I was not going underprepared. The convention was in the beginning of August, and my prep began exactly 1 year before the event. That left little time to waste. I spent months saving up spare change and petty cash for the assured treasury known as the Merchant Hall, putting together costumes for everyday items and used dresses to be adored by the bear, and most importantly, keeping up to date with the activities of the head brony analysts. I had to know if the bros who inspired more critical thought in my life were to attend. I didn't need to talk to them. I didn't need them to answer the most philosophical question I could muster. I just needed to know they existed. That they weren't just some characters I had flanderized in my depraved imagination. Oh yes, I would see. But there was more than just that group of exclusive pony celebrities I was interested in seeing. I was even more interested in finally meeting some of my late-night chat friends. Not all could be in attendance, but I'll take what I can get. And I'll admit, I wanted to meet new friends. Ones with elaborate costumes, ones with unique perspectives and open minds, ones that would put other motley crews to shame. Needless to say, I had higher expectations than an ant finding a garbage can. But would it all be in vain? Would my hopes be crushed with the bitter mediocrity that is humanity? Well, my trip was certainly no picnic. BronyCon took place in Baltimore, Maryland, so as you can probably imagine, the trip was taxing even by plane. Have you tried sleeping in coach with no neck pillow? Never again. By the time I had reached my hotel room, I was out like a light and nearly slept through early registration. I got lucky then. With that, I set my phone to have alarms go off so I would have enough time in the morning to put myself together with plenty to spare. The next day, I was fully rested and ready for what's sure to be the most exciting 3 days of my life. Day 1 went off without a hitch. My primary plan was to hit up the panels. It may sound odd, but I actually like a good lecture, if I'm interested in the subject. Not to say I wouldn't partake in the more rambunctious events, such as Bronypalooza and the Grand Galloping Gala, but those sorts of things took place later in the evening anyway. The panels I attended that morning I remember being the most thought-provoking. The first dove into the academic side of the pony phenomenon, the thoughts behind the research of something so spontaneous and trivial. But something I felt gave more food for thought was the panel Cartoons Playfully Transgressing Normative Codes, run by a Dr. Katia Perea. I'm sorry if I butchered that. This good doctor brought up girl cartoons dating back a few decades and noted their importance in society, and pointed out how most female characters were portrayed poorly, either by being annoying or plain malicious, and how the few strong independent female characters came to be sexualized over time, a few standouts being Rainbow Bright and the emergence of Equestria girls. Ooh. Though my day wasn't all prudent lecturing, luck would have it the Brony analysts were having their panel the first day of this shebang, and boy was I ecstatic. I saw them all in the flesh, heard their voices straight from their throats. Their panel primarily consists of answering questions straight from the audience, and though I didn't ask any questions of significance, I felt sated in that my voice had touched their ears just once. Shortly after, I left to do something I never thought I'd see the day of, and that was meet an online friend. Without being stalked, of course. The friend in question was the eccentric and underage, so don't get any funny ideas, guy friend Greg. That day, however, and for the next 2 days to come, he was most focused on networking and drawing. That can be annoying when you're at a convention with loads to do, and all your friend wants is to sit around and hobnob. But I did manage to coax him out for a particular animators panel, but then again, about half the fandom would give a limb to be first in line for it anyway. To give you some sort of idea of what we dealt with there, the name of the panel was Flufflepuff Meet and Greet. Flufflepuff is about one of the most iconic original characters to come out of the Brony fandom. It may be safe to assume that its design had brought into consideration what fans had loved most from My Little Pony to begin with: utter cuteness. The creator of this adorable little snuggle pillow fluffy mixer seemed a shy one, but nonetheless answered every query as best he could, and the panel was nothing short on enthusiasm. Nothing but singing along to big fluffy unicorns dancing on rainbows and raspberries being thrown around like mad. You know, like, not the fruit, the thing you do with your tongue, like. Right around then, I think my day ended. I'm sure I did other things that day, but nothing more seemed as memorable, other than the fact that I was constantly stopped in the halls of the convention centers so onlookers could take pictures of my cosplay, but that was to be a common occurrence through all 3 days of my journey. Always flattering, though. The second day proved to be my favorite, despite having the most frustrating moments. I believe I neglected to mention that my sister and her current husband had also tagged along for the trip. They weren't to be convention goers, of course, but who would decline a trip to Baltimore? I had to bring someone with to prevent my mother from having a hissy fit on me going it alone, and who better to trust with leaving me to my own design than my dear older sister? Anyway, I started off that day a bit peeved since my sister finally decided to take some interest in my activities and insisted on taking pictures of the day's cosplay, making me nearly late for my first panel. I'm a pony that values punctuality. Luckily, I made it in time to schmooze and was even more excited since today was to be the day of the cosplay contest. I don't know what I expected out of it. Something quick and fun. To have others admire the work I put into my costume, particularly my wings since my mother and I had made them by hand with 2 hangers, rubber bands, tying, and lots of synthetic feathers, and admire theirs in return. What I had imagined and what went down couldn't have been more different. Don't get me wrong, the costumes were splendid, creative, interesting, some completely insane. The thing was, I had to adore them in a line. An extremely long line. It took forever to be processed through different categories and all to just walk across a stage and be judged. Pretty underwhelming and a bit too tiring for my taste. The rest of the day, though, oh, that was fun. What really made it is when I bumped into a night guard, and since I was Princess Luna, a monarch of the night if you were unfamiliar, it was only natural he accompanied me through the convention halls and be at my beck and call. Being a princess of the night is tough, you know. We stopped off by Bronypalooza, the biggest brony music fest I've ever known, and listened to a few of my favorite artists, after which we departed for a snack. The amount of times people asked us for a photo were too many to count, and I drank up that attention like fruit punch out of a juice box. Sure, I knew most of the attention was aimed at my guard for his impressive armor, but what did I care? He could scooch and share the spotlight. Sadly, he couldn't stay forever, but that left only one capital event to end my evening with: the Grand Galloping Gala. This was a pretty big deal. A schmancy little get-together where formal dress was heavily reinforced, and since my attire was that of a princess, I got in no problem. I was disappointed there were no snacks. I mean, what's a party without snacks? Come on. But forgave it for the fact that I was never left wanting for a dance partner. Every song I was draped on someone's arm. Hey, maybe that sounds petty, but coming from a girl who went to as little dances and social events as possible in high school, that was quite overwhelming. Let me tell you, I may suck at dancing, but my partners didn't. I ended the night with a nice gent walking me back to my hotel, all the while keeping up the charade that I was pure royalty. Oh, I just ate that up. Yeah, it was a real fairy tale night. I kind of wish that was how it ended, but I can't say the last day was disappointing. The next morning, I treated myself to a panel on life-size plushies. I'm not even sure what I'd do with a stuffed animal big enough to ride. But the rest of my day draws almost blank on my mind. I guess what I had going through my brain was that it was almost over. But I did make the most of what little time I had. I remember hitting the vendor's hall for a final raid, collecting the best of the posters I could find, and even getting a plushie of my favorite character before closing ceremonies. What I remember of the ceremonies was bittersweet, catching glimpses of myself in the camera, cheering along with the crowd, almost furious that they would soon make me leave, and listening sharply to know when my next chance at this community would be. That part sticks with me the most, honestly. The thought of community. I've never had that feeling before, feeling like I was a part of something bigger than myself. That the people around me weren't strangers. Not anymore. They were neighbors, sisters and brothers, hell, they were cousins. What happened any time after that didn't matter. It wasn't over. It hadn't even waited until the convention to start. I wonder if everyone else had felt it all along and I was just slow on the upkeep. But we were more than fans, than friends. This was something so much more, something I still can't quite label, and why should I have to? Those 3 days I had been frustrated, excited, put off, and utterly joyful, and I wouldn't take back a moment of it. The only thing that haunts me now is how I can be something more when I go again. The next time I go to BronyCon, I want to be someone the fandom will recognize. I want to be someone they'll be proud of.
Everybody, oh yeah, stand up, people, woo, everybody, get down now, stand up, don't be shy, people, come up, get up,